1920, 99 years ago, Jasper Calder, an assistant priest here at St Matthew's, started the city mission. The 1920s was a time of social change after the Great War had ended, with the servicemen returning. The pan-endemic flu epidemic came, and many died. Our returning soldiers suffered from PTSD, and there was no treatment for that devastating condition. We also had no social welfare system until 1935. So there was a need, for I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you took care of me. I was in prison and you visited me. 2019 sees the mission still standing with those in desperate need. This morning, I would like to share with you the work of the different teams that make up the mission. And I'd like to welcome some of my colleagues, Jeanette Mathers, who is a part of Wolf's homeless community team, and Gerard Pickwell, who looks after the elder service, who I work very closely with. I did hope that one or two others would come, but I think 10 o'clock might be a bit early on Sunday, and maybe church isn't quite the flavour. Okay, we'll start with Wolf's all-important homeless community team. This is the team that manages Hayata, our dining area, and they serve 100 plus meals at breakfast and lunch, all cooked at the mission. Some of you, rather not many, but can't see many of the volunteers who come and help in Hayata, but it is wonderful to see St Matthew's people in Hayata serving the meals, and they are really, really needed. So this team isn't just about meals. Jeanette organises the all-important activities. Monday starts, and it's very noisy Monday. We start with choir practice, followed by band practice, and then music makers. Tuesday starts with waiata and karakia, attended by most mission staff as well as clients. This is followed by a very well-attended art class that is run by a wonderful volunteer, Claire. Wednesday includes clay, reading and writing, concluding with meditation. Thursday we have kapahaka and golden oldies. And to be a golden oldie, you have to be 55 plus. Friday starts with a quiz, which Jeanette spends a lot of time preparing, followed by carving. And Sunday, they have a movie, but they had one yesterday as well, I noticed, so maybe it's Saturday and Sunday. And on Mondays, we have a very well-attended drama group that meets here at St Matthew's. And there is also a group that goes out and works in the community, cleaning creeks and does work at the recycling plant, and that is in conjunction with Heart and City organisation. When our meals are being served and eaten, there is another team in Hayata, Brief Intervention. This is a team of 4 key workers who assist our whānau with benefit application, accommodation, and any other need that may present, and these are quite often health needs. This team works with people for 12 weeks, and if there is still problems, they will be referred to another mission service, such as Gerard's if they're over 55, or the homeless team if housing hasn't been achieved, or an outside service. It's what is required for that particular need. Our Homeless Outreach Support Service includes a team of 3 key workers and a mental health nurse. They respond to notifications of homelessness from the general public and monitor those who we already know where the rough sleepers are. This team starts its day at 6 a.m, climbing under bridges, checking graveyards, and central Auckland parks, or wherever there may be a rough sleeper. Now, one of the people that I had hoped would come this morning didn't quite make it, but I'm going to share his story. A few years ago, it's about 3 years ago now, 2016, I was working with Hoss, and Gerard and I frequently would go out and meet Wirramu down on Queen Street. He'd been there about 18 months, and he was getting very physically unwell, to the point that he actually could not move. We were monitoring his health, and I'd often take some Calder Health Centre nurses down. But eventually he became so unwell, we knew we had to get him off the street. To do that, we had to negotiate with the hospital that we could get him off the street, into hospital, get checked out, and then back to a home that we had organised for him to go to. So on the third attempt, we were successful thanks to an AT bus driver the bus stop outside the Civic, he had the bus there, we put the detox van in front and bundled Wirramu in. Yes, Gerard, I know, it's still a funny story. Wirramu spent some time in hospital and then went to Keretu House in Green Lane, which we affectionately call the City Mission's retirement village, because we have many of our people there. Wirramu now is busy working on his health and fitness, and that was the excuse he couldn't come today, he had to go to boot camp. Now, we're really proud of him, but we're also proud of ourselves for this one. We made a plan with Wirramu, and he wanted not to be isolated at Keretu. Fine. So, Jeanette and I, over a period of 2 years, would drive out to Keretu, pick him up Tuesdays and Wednesdays for art and clay. And it slowly just drifted off. He doesn't need us quite so much now. Lots of phone calls, but he now has lost 60 kilos. He was about 200 kilos when we picked him up off Queen Street. So it just shows you what we can do if we work as teams and listen to the needs of that person. And I am extremely proud of that boy. A very special team I work with is the Elder Service, managed by Gerard, who has been at the mission some years. Not as long as Wilf, not as long as Wilf, not as long as me. Okay. This service takes referrals from the community and other agencies with anyone over the age of 55 who has social issues. And some are homeless, but many live in their own homes and are socially isolated or have issues such as hoarding, which is Gerard's favourite. In this last few months, Gerard, his key worker Fiona and I have worked very closely with 3 men dying of cancer, one who was living on Quay Street. While this journey is often fraught with frustration, it is always a privilege to be there at the end with them. As many of you will be aware, some of our funerals are held here at St Matthew's. We've recently added a new team to the wider Hoss group, and this is Housing First, where our rough sleepers are supported into accommodation and assisted to sustain their tenancy. And this is a fairly long-term commitment to that tenancy sustainment. Another team is Crisis Care, who support the community with food deprivation, issuing the many thousands of food parcels that are issued, as well as supporting the satellites like Muma and Mangere, Papakura Marae, Clendon Community Centre and St Luke's Manurewa. This team is also these days offering budgeting. They've always done advocacy, and they're doing a non-violence program starting in a few months. I myself work with the Calder Health Centre as their social worker, working with our patients, working with the new people that have come to brief intervention, Gerard's group, and HOS when they go out and find somebody who's not well. Our rust sleeper's life is shortened by nearly 30 years compared to the general population. So one of our biggest challenges is our people present with health problems that are normally the normal population. It manifests at age 65 plus, or maybe even 80. Ours might be 45, 55. But the health system's not set up for that. And one of our biggest battles is negotiating and manoeuvring around the health system so that we can get the services our people need to actually have a good life once they are housed. And we have had a few successes. I was just thinking about our gentleman down in Victoria Park who'd been there 4 years. Gerard and I found him bleeding out. We rang an ambulance. The ambulance thought they'd tell me how to stop the bleeding, at which point I just closed the phone call, got a doctor to ring, and we got the ambulance. He was eventually healed. He had what was called rodent ulcer and is now living at Caratu House and having the most wonderful life. So once again, but it was a battle. We actually had to use quite heavy legislation called a triple PNR so that this person could have that good outcome. But that was one of the more positive, working with the hospital services. And that are the things that we can do. The Calder Centre also has a walk-in clinic 5 days a week. A mental health practitioner comes in once a week. Hep C clinic, because there is now successful treatment for Hep C. CADs come in once a week, and a podiatrist comes in fortnightly because diabetes is really high in our group, and so those feet need being looked after. Out in Avondale, we have a social detox unit, which has 10 beds in this unit for treatment that usually lasts 2 weeks, and then they are followed up in the community. On the 1st of July this year, we took over the management of James Liston Hostel down in Freeman's Bay. James Liston has recently had a wonderful renovation, going from 15 beds to 52, and is managed by Charlotte Armour, who was part of our HOS team some years ago, and she now has 6 key workers working with her. They are an emergency housing provider, and our whānau typically stay there for 12 weeks and move on to permanent housing. The mission could not manage without our distribution centre. This team is in Grafton. They pack the thousands of food parcels that are issued, sort clothing, organise the delivery of furniture as needed, as well as managing our new beginning shops. And then we have administration that organises the administration, and the very important fundraising team and home ground who are responsible for that amazing building going up next door. And fingers crossed we will move in there November 2020. Not quite the anniversary, because June 20th, I believe, was the day the mission started, but not too far out. So that's the mission in 1,000 words. Thank you, Jeanette and Gerard, for coming. And I will finish with the words of Micah. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God? Please, any questions, ask us at the end at morning tea. Thank you.